All right, we're now going to begin the training portion of our meeting. We remind the board and all attendees that we are still at a public meeting. This session is still being broadcast and recorded. While no further action items for the board, the same rules of decorum apply. Ben will turn the meeting over to you to introduce the topics we're going to cover. The members of the port team will be present.
All right, Madam Chair, I think for the record, we're starting this one just a couple minutes early, if that's okay, Larry.
2 minutes early.
2 minutes early, so we were right on time with the last meeting. We're getting a good idea of how these meetings are going. So just to the board and to the public, this portion is something that our chair and I have talked about for some time. Is we have several new board members. It's just good to be able to run through where things have been at with the port and ultimately where we're going in our efforts to help bolster the state of Utah. So we've got a number of presentations today that we're going to hear from different members of our Inland Port Authority team. We invite and welcome the public to stay on, but this will be a review of what we've been involved with over the last primarily 3 years. And I'll just very quickly state, since we have an extra minute, the quick history of the port. We were created in 2018, but we went through a significant pivot in 2022. The legislature that year had redone our board, and Jeff, thank you for your comments. I think you said that very well. We went from a very, and I'll say 15-member board that was a little bit difficult to get everybody educated and to have everyone involved and know what was going on. And I can say that because I was a part of that board, down to a 5-member voting board with 3 ex officio members. This board has been incredibly impactful in the efforts of this organization. I see a lot of times where there are organizations who will just come back and get a rubber stamp and say, you know, don't look too closely what's going on within the organization itself. This board has never allowed for that to happen, quite frankly, and I didn't want it to. And so maybe we do talk about the things that we're doing well quite often, but I think in terms of how this board interacts with our staff and our respective stakeholders is really a gold standard. Our board is involved with Jonathan being the chair of our Finance and Audit Committee, to Jeff, Joel, and too many J's. Jeff and Joel, Ariane, and Jerry, all being part of our tax differential committee. We got a lot of J's on this board, Madam Chair. But being directly involved in that group, we bring everything that the organization does to that tax differential committee prior to bringing it to the full board and to the public for their review and ultimate approval. So for us, it's been a significant pivot the last 3 years. And I just want to commend our staff. I don't say this enough, but one, our board is heavily involved in this organization. This is a time-intensive board, so thank you to our board and to all those who make this work. But I also want to note that our staff has done a great job. It's not always easy. When we were, you know, a 15, 16-person organization, we were getting a new executive director. There was some turmoil at the time that I want to acknowledge, and everyone kind of had to pivot. And we've brought on a few new faces since that time in August 2022, September 2022. But really, this is kind of that 3-year mark of what we set out to do. So today's a good day to be able to review where we've been these last 3 years, ultimately look at where we're going moving forward, and get direction from our board, and also get questions from our board. So board members, this is a chance and an opportunity for you to ask questions as you see fit, to give us direction as you see fit and guidance, sometimes even rebukes in public. We're good for whatever. But I want to commend our team. They've done a tremendous job, and we'll be hearing from them today. So first we'll have a chance, and I think we may have, we're redoing the agenda if I understand correctly from our team. We're getting a nod from Scott and Alan. Okay, we had planned to do the project area tax differential first. That's going to be the meat of our retreat. However, we have one item, so we're actually going to do the logistics overview first, if that's okay, Madam Chair. And then we will go to the project area tax differential overview. So as Alan's coming up and preparing his presentation, we have provided all of the board members with all of the slides that we're going through today, and there's several, so that you can make notes, you can make questions, you can do whatever you want. And if it feels easier to follow up with us one-on-one, we're happy to do that. Madam Chair, I'm comfortable saying that we'll be done by 1 o'clock.
Okay.
So we'll take a couple hours and go through these presentations. We will have an opportunity for the board to grab lunch. We'll do a short intermission. You know, perhaps right after the project area overview. But just to start out, we're a twofold organization. One is, how do we level up the state's logistics network? The second piece is, how do we strengthen regional economies? And those two forces play together in a very important way. I would note that we have two other sub and related focuses with that, one of which is internal transparency and making sure that our organization is well run, and the last being sustainability and making sure that we're doing right by the environment and the communities in which we work. And thank you for Mona for overseeing that. So we'll have a chance to hear about all of that today. So with that, Alan, I'm going to turn the time over to you, and I think you were going to start us, if that's okay. Larry, do you by chance know what page we are starting on with the logistics study?
The pages aren't numbered. It's a little,
What's that like?
sorry.
2/3 in.
It's only 4 pages, or actually 4 slides for this one, so.
So for this one right here, it's about halfway through the packet.
Page 3, 2, page 12.
Well, each presentation restarts its numbering system, so.
Yeah,
About halfway through the packet.
about halfway to the packet. Yeah. Victoria.
If you're looking at the early page numbers, look for about 43 would get you there.
Yes.
Okay, great. Is this mic on or?
It's not.
Okay,
Yours now to speak.
great. So in 2023, the port ran an RFP for a logistics study and a statewide strategy. And we of course got respondents. In the end, the respondent was chosen was CPCS, and it was a joint response from CPCS and WSP. And that study started in August of 2023, and it completed around October of 2024. And since that time, we've been working on implementation. So I thought that today we could maybe just run through what some of the objectives were of the study, what the recommendations were, and then spend the bulk of the time talking about what we've been doing to implement against that strategy. So the reason logistics matters is that the state, of course, wants to attract more manufacturing jobs. Manufacturers that are looking to relocate, logistics is one of the top, if not the top, consideration of their costs and where they're going to relocate. And logistics, of course, becomes a key enabler of economic development. So those are the reasons we care about logistics. And Larry, we can go to the next slide. So these were the objectives that came out of, that we started off with. We wanted to define the current state. We wanted to understand freight movement throughout the state, but we wanted it to be based on data. We wanted to identify gaps and challenges, and then we wanted to know where to invest our money, our resources, to drive economic development and improvement in logistics. And then also we wanted to work on partnership strategies going forward. So we can go to the next slide. The logistics study it's quite extensive. It's on our website. You can look at it. But if you kind of the 3 main things on the strategy were that we wanted to, the recommendations were that we enhance rail access throughout the state, that we improve connectivity with the coastal ports, and that we establish Salt Lake City International as an air cargo gateway. And so with those 3 modes, we've got rail, ocean, and air. Obviously, truck is a big part of what moves freight. And we felt that that was kind of fills in where the gaps are in these other modes. So if we just kind of now move on to the next slide, we can just talk about some of the projects that we're doing in each of these areas. So they're under the enhanced rail access. The first one that we really got underway was in Iron County. And there were two projects there. The first was with Rail Sync, and it was an industrial park and a new rail spur that would provide ability for access onto the railroad there. The port got involved. We committed some loan money to that, and in the process, or as a requirement of that, we required that it became open access and anyone could access that. And so that's moved forward and developed out. I think many of us were at the opening of that. About the same time, another transload facility by Savage was being worked on that same rail line. It focuses more on hazmat, liquid loadout. And so again, now this is all new transloadability in that community and rail access. So we worked with the railroads, or the railroad there to make sure this was going in. We also were able to get that area designated as a focus site with Union Pacific, which means that they market that internally to their current customers as places that they might be able to expand. If we look at Tooele, the Savage Tooele Railroad is another example of where we're creating more access to rail. And this is a new 11-mile railroad that goes into the heart of Tooele Valley or Tooele County there and accesses multiple project areas and makes several new areas available for rail access. And that's another one where we committed some loan dollars to, and it's pretty exciting. And also there, Union Pacific has designated that area as a focus site as well. If we talk about the Northwest Quadrant, we've done several projects there. We've did a track extension beyond Stadler over to Copper Crossing, which then gave rail access to that whole development there as well. The state was able to recruit a Wholesome and into that area, and that's been a great thing. We've also partnered to provide third rail electric track testing in that same area, which is different than the overhead catenary. It's actually a rail that runs adjacent to one of the rails on the ground and electrifies trains that way. We've done also a rail spur at the 5 South building to create a new laydown yard, which has been getting a lot of use now. It's the first track is up and running, and there'll be a second track that comes in, and it should be completed shortly as well. And then finally, we did a grant to Salt Lake City for TrainFo, and this is an information system on the west side where at the crossings that are often blocked, it provides information on how long the train's going to be there, so people can make a decision if they're going to wait or find a different routing. And so we worked with Salt Lake on that. We committed some money to that a year ago, and then we've just committed some more additional dollars to that as well. If we talk about connectivity with the coastal ports and rail access, ocean access, ocean freight's unique in that the ocean carriers contract with individual railroads. So they don't have a contract with more than one, which means that when we're only served by one railroad, it limits the number of ocean carriers that can compete in our market. And that was been the situation here in Utah forever. And so there's a lot of those ocean carriers that have been cut out. Companies, and they're the top ocean carriers. The largest in the world, the third largest in the world, even the one that is headquartered locally here in Utah, didn't have competitive access in. So we knew that we needed a second class one railroad to serve the intermodal. And that's been something that I think the state's been working on for a long time. And as we talked about earlier, at the end of July, we were able to open up that new intermodal facility and have our market now served by two class one, the intermodal side, and that's really opened up the number of ocean carriers. And so prior to this, manufacturers were finding that the cost became so high to bring containers into Utah that it was less expensive to lease property and redistribute out of California than it was to bring the containers here. So this is a big step forward into helping to make our state much more competitive as we compete to attract businesses here.
Alan, I'm gonna interrupt you there if you
Yeah.
don't mind. I'm gonna also just say that, just for the board to remember, the merger that Union Pacific just went through with Norfolk Southern too is gonna be hugely beneficial to our market too.
Yep.
So, I mean, we don't, well, it's so important that we got Burlington Northern in here, that expansion and that merger for just the reach that we can have that Union Pacific didn't once have, and now they have with the merger, or will have when this merger is totally executed. It's just, we really will be coast to coast, Mexico to Canada and everything in between. So truly makes us the crossroads of the West, and that's super exciting for our manufacturers.
It's really exciting. And then if we just want to kind of move to the air cargo piece. We have been working with Salt Lake City
That
International.
different set of slides?
So it's right here. It's just this last piece, right?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
So the Salt Lake City International has been a great partner. Bill and his team have been remarkable to work with. And so one of the struggles that we have on the cargo side with air freight is that we do not have a lot of access to wide body aircraft into various markets. And that becomes an issue because of the type of freight you can put on a narrow body versus a wide body. A wide body, you can put a pallet of freight on, narrow bodies, you can't. And so having that ability to have wide body access into markets is really crucial for as we move in the direction of creating the air cargo gateway. So when there was an opportunity for us to help expedite getting that Korea flight online, we certainly took advantage of that and did a community grant there to make sure that that flight came on earlier rather than it got delayed. And so that's been a really good thing, this flight to Incheon now, and the shippers are really grateful to have that. It's the first time we've had direct access into Asia for our cargo, and that's big. The other thing that we have been working on, we talked about this in the board meeting, and that is the advanced air cargo capability. When we did the study, it highlighted the fact that we didn't have advanced air cargo capability. We were struggling with pharmaceutical, cold chain, some of these things that are crucial. And so when we had the opportunity to work with Delta to move them into the old US Post Office building and be able to get these advanced cargo capabilities online faster, that was something that we definitely jumped at and worked with them to do this loan to help facilitate that, get that here quicker for us.
Jonathan, you want to speak to that? You were kind of our point
Sure.
person on that.
Yeah, this is really exciting. And I just commend the board again, or sorry, the port again, the team for getting this close. These deals always take far longer than I could ever anticipate, right? And Sebastian has been a fantastic addition to the team here. Alan, Sebastian, Ben, the whole team have just done a wonderful job on this. But by relocating, I'll just maybe point out one thing I think is really consequential, and that is by providing this loan to Delta to relocate their facility. that we're able to widen the airport, I should say, is able to widen the runway to accommodate larger planes. Currently, the Delta facility pinches the runway to a degree. Anyway, it just opens up our market to the world. We have this beautiful $5 billion+ airport, and now we have, we're now the crossroads of the West and really the crossroads of the world. So it's very meaningful, really exciting what you've done.
It is exciting, so thank you. And then finally, I'd just say that we worked with the airport and we've committed some dollars or committed to get some ground servicing equipment that can be used by any airline. That way, when new entrants come into the market or cargo airlines want to be able to service the local market, they have the ability to do that. They're not locked out by the fact that they don't have cargo handling equipment. And so that's something that we've been working on with the airport as well. So those are the main things around that. Are there any questions? Are
there any plans for us to, I appreciate that we're responsive to needs right now, so we're kind of assuming a reactive pose, especially in terms of rail, where there's demand to go.
Yeah.
Is there any plan for us to ever become proactive? I'm thinking in particular of recurring needs that come up every legislative session that we are uniquely positioned to solve, but never enter the conversation. Ben has been really great. He went and met with some people that I sent to him, because every year I have to hear about how we have to expand gravel pits underneath the houses to build the houses. Like, this doesn't make sense. We're gonna be polluting, we're gonna be destabilizing environments, but the need for the aggregate from the mines is real. The need to cost control that aggregate is real, but also the reality of the growth of the population that doesn't need that near them is real. We are uniquely positioned. There are places in our outlying port areas who would love these jobs, and if we could convert to rail, according to every statistic I've been presented here that I've bought into, it's not only an affordability element, but it's also an environmental protection element. Is there any plan for us, we have talked about how the whole state is settled essentially along I-15, and with the advent of rail, we could break open out away from it. Is there any plan for us to pivot to a proactive model where we say, hey, state, we're hearing that you're having these larger concerns. We are your solution. Let's build together.
Are you specifically asking just in the aggregate gravel sense?
I think there's other ones, but the aggregate gravel is the one that I've been thinking of, that when I brought it to Ben has been incredibly helpful, and an aggregate producer of notable name is thrilled with this and, excited, especially since they're cutting out their competition early because this idea is innovative, right? Like, I mean, we have so many advantages and opportunities with a growth trajectory like ours. Aggregate's the most apparent one to need, because that's what I'm thinking of. But I bet I could go back through the legislative sessions and talk about 9 different things that become contention between what the state is proposing and what the league is opposing, where the court could and should be going, hey, how do we broker all of these very real needs?
I guess I would just argue with you that I don't think we're just a reactionary agency. I mean, just take that Beaver one, for example. We pushed that. We saw in Crossroads, we pushed that as an agency. And so maybe not in a market that you're thinking about specifically, and that's something we can absolutely should be thinking
Well,
about.
I'm thinking mostly about the train logistics, because I understand that, like, you don't run a rail to someplace that doesn't need the rail run. 1,000%. But I think we're also leaving value on the table for our state's needed growth when we are not pivotal in the conversations that are happening. When the conversation is just the league standing up for cities and towns who appear obstructionist, and the state is trying to push something because of a real need. Like, there's so much opportunity here to help everyone.
I would add, Madam Chair, one problem I really feel like the port has been very proactive in addressing is the larger issue to our state on pollution. And how do we reduce, pollution in our air, improving our air quality, for example? And, by expanding rail service, by expanding our reach, by expanding providers. We take, every rail car takes 4 trucks off the road. It reduces congestion, it reduces pollution. Air cargo, by reducing the what's called leakage, which is 92% of all air cargo, as was mentioned, leaves our state, goes to LA, goes to Denver, goes to Chicago. By reducing all those trucks on the road, again, reduces that pollution and congestion. So I'm very appreciative. Certainly, I'm sure there's areas where we can improve. Victoria makes a good point. I've seen a number of very proactive actions taken by the port that I've been really pleased with.
Yeah, and let me clarify, the reactionary part is that we go with rail where there's demand. But I think there's places where the demand hasn't been identified because we're still relying on old structures for problem solving, where the port actually could be the answer. The aggregate being the primary example, right? Like no one even is thinking, hey, let's bring rail. Ben has worked with this producer and it's in process, isn't it?
We've been working with them. I think it's finding the right site. That'll be
Right.
a big.
And like, there's opportunity here and there's economics here, so I think you're right, Jonathan. I'm not saying that we are reactive in all our postures. I'm saying that particularly the logistics right now are just the rail logistics are based on where the apparent demand is when Iron County comes online and there's that apparent need, when Tooele comes online, there's an apparent need. But I think there's other places where I would love for us to be like, hey, like make it like a rubric, like the rail help here. We have a centralized logistics. We should be able to insert into those conversations.
And I think when Scott and his AVPs go through all the project areas, I think we are really inserting in a lot of those areas where it makes sense. And I think there's a lot of projects that are in flight as well that we're going to be coming up against relatively soon.
We
That
just
are
need to
outside of
consult with government relations so that we can make sure we're capturing the zeitgeist as
Right.
well.
Okay.
Madam Chair, on this too, if I may, for just a second. When I came into the port job, my background, sorry, Derek, my background was more economic. And so I was much more interested in the tools on the economic side of the house. The whole dynamic of why this organization is called the Inland Port, for me, was a little bit of a question mark because we were doing a lot of things and we were involved in a lot of places. I'll tell you, I am someone who, for 20 years in this state, educationally and professionally, has been trained to focus on our economic future and to use the tools given to me in whatever role I'm in, to better the city and the respective state that I work, or the respective city and the state that I work for, in terms of what our economic outlook looks like. As I've been in this job for 3 years now, I love the economic side. But there are very few organizations that are looking at what our logistics future and our transportation future looks like. I think it's just as important, and in some ways more important, for us to be looking out for logistics and transportation. I can't look at Scott when I say that because Scott's gonna give me a dirty look. But the reason I say that is because nobody else is really looking out for the entire network. So when we say that we are a port, we are a port in the truest sense. We're a landlord, we're a financier. We do all the things that ports do. We just get to explore the entire state. I will say for us, it was really good to be able to work with CPCS. Look, that was an incredibly expensive study. It cost this organization $1.5 million, but it was worth every penny because it gave us a sense for where the direct gaps are and where we needed to make up ground, specifically with our investments. Those 3 areas that we found: first, we've got to have better access and opportunity to rail all across the state of Utah. We were able to immediately deploy funds to places like Cedar City, where there were no rail loading facilities in all of Southwest Utah. At this juncture, we've taken, I'm going to use this loosely, but I'm going to say thousands of trucks off the road because they now get service directly to Cedar City instead into Iron County, instead of having to come through the northwest quadrant of Salt Lake City. That's exactly what we should be doing. We'll be at an event next month in September where we will finalize the new Savage facility. That is estimated to take 4,000 to 5,000 trucks off the road every year that we're coming into the northwest quadrant of Salt Lake City. We've been able to level up the entire system statewide through direct investments in the right places. I'll also add the thing that we talked about with BN. If you notice, part of our study said you've got to better connect with the shippers. part of what we saw at the BN event was the shippers that have already signed on. That's MSC, that's OOCL, and CMA, CGM, I think is the other one, Alan. And so we have already strengthened that relationship with our port and with the ocean shippers bringing materials and goods and commodities into the Salt Lake market. The third part of that study said air cargo. That's something we really got to focus on. The deal with Delta, the several deals with Delta, the other infrastructure that we're considering, as Jonathan mentioned, what's going to happen with the runway and allowing for other flights to come into the market now, because hopefully 5, 6, 7 years down the road, we'll have new runway infrastructure there, is critical for our market. So I believe after 3 years, we have absolutely started to define and elevate our position as a port. We're more a port than we have ever been in this organization's history. I think that's something that we take very, very seriously. And so I appreciate Alan and Sebastian. I want to give Sebastian a shout out. He's doing great work on the air cargo front. For us, our brightest days as a port are ahead of us, honestly. I think we've got more of these deals that can be done. With what Victoria is saying, I think, and Abby with you as well, I think what we're saying here is that now we have the core network. We have the infrastructure that we can build off of. We have the Christmas tree that we can now put ornaments on in terms of being able to build out the state as a better logistics hub. And we're absolutely dedicated to that. But without these investments, without Salt Lake City International as an air cargo gateway, without BN and UP, we didn't have the right infrastructure. Now that we do, we can just continue to level up the state from a transportation standpoint. I think that's absolutely what we're.
Any other questions?
I don't think you gave yourself credit for the electrification of the roadways that you're piloting with Aspire too.
That's a good one too.
Yeah.
That's exciting. And I would just say, thanks to the board for approving that study, and just, it's been great, and being able to execute it has been really useful. So thank you.
No pun intended.
Right.
Where we going now, Scott?
Oh,
Yeah,
state
better.
engineer, the whole lunch is ready now.
Yep, I'm gonna stand by you and see.
We want to break.
Just let me know. Okay, why don't we do this? We just like water out a little bit. Get your lunch turned back, and we just drive.
Okay.
That work?
All right. So
Board members, we'll just kind of trickle out one by one.
Sure.
Ish.
lunch is ready. So
You just
lunch,
need 1, 2 over there. Am I right?
if you want to go,
Well,
lunch is going to be right where you're. It's
I think it's in the side
actually
room.
really good. We like Rob.
That better word, I guess. Sounds like the bottom of it.
You guys want to?
Are we just staggering?
yeah, we just got here.
They're stagger?
Yes, Scott.
Here, with that, I can't make that easy.
Start
Still
this.
trying to digest that mayo.
They'll miss the best part, Madam Chair, but I'm happy to do whatever you like.
Which one's the best part? Oh,
Madam Chair, Vice Chair Stoltz, and Vice Chair Friedman, honorable board members, thank you for the opportunity and the privilege to speak today. My name is Scott Wolford. I'm the Vice President of Business Development Team for the Utah Port Authority. We are going to do a high-level overview of the business development efforts and the financial tools employed by the Utah Inland Port Authority. We are happy to answer questions as we go through this. We've been asked to keep our comments to about 40 minutes. We are 30 minutes left. The Inland Port Authority just created our 14th project area, Pony Express in western Utah counties, communities of Fairfield and Cedar Fort. 13 of these project areas were created through the same process in which a resolution was passed by the Land Use Authority of the Communities in a public meeting requesting that the Port Authority Board create these project areas. This creates a wonderful synergy between the Port Authority Administrative Staff, our board, and those local communities themselves, as we do not enjoy the authority, any authorities associated with land use. We're somewhat powerless to override the desires of the local communities, which is a wonderful relationship to have. We bring a wonderful statutory tool set that our Deputy Director, Mary Ann Gibson, is going to talk about. And they bring, again, the ability to commit, change zoning, control all those land use powers. Thank you very much. Those 14 project areas represent resolutions from now 41 communities. Those communities, the counties are shaded in green, and the cities are represented in the label. As the relationship. That's all I got, Diana. That's all I got. Fighting the cold all weekend is all I got.
Hey, like I said at the beginning, move to the
Come
front.
on. 40 communities have asked us to be there. This is a partnership, not an imposition by the state. This slide here is a representation, not to scale, of the size of the project areas, and the concentric circles represent amendments that have been requested by the local communities and then approved by this board. I don't want to say this was unforeseen on the administrative staff, but we did not understand or comprehend the scale of the appetite for the statutory authorities that this board has. And as we've been in the project areas, as we've created, again, about half of these have asked us to come back and say, actually, we have areas in our community that we want to employ these tools and this partnership, which we think is a testament to the relationship that we've been able to foster with the communities. We have hired and appointed 4 associate vice presidents to be the regional representatives, the advocates, those who help to execute and develop these project areas. We have Stephanie Pack doing Northern Utah, Stephen Smith in the Northwest Quadrant in Salt Lake City. We have Jenna Draper doing the southeast portion of the state, and a Godfather economic development in Southern Utah, Danny Stewart doing the southwest portion of the state. The process to create a project area, again, is a 4-step process where there's a resolution passed by the local community. Then we work with their agent to draft a plan and budget. It is presented and then adopted in a 2-meeting cycle by this board. And then there's a 25-year relationship with an optional up to 15-year extension. So potentially 40 years that we are going to work with these communities to build out the project areas, to measure how effective we've been, and to adjust into what type of build, what type of industries they want to recruit. With that, I will turn the non-functional microphone over to Deputy Director Gibson to talk about our tool set.
Thank you, Scott. So I wanted to give you the most exciting thing you're going to hear today, an overview of the finance side and the mechanism that works here. So I'll try and make it as understandable as I can, but feel free to interject with any questions.
Ariane, can I just say while you're queuing that up, it may not be the most exciting thing, but this slide is at the heart of everything that the board does. And so what Ariane's going through in terms of how we generate our revenues, it really is one of the most important defining features of the board.
Yes, so this slide has been put together to give you an illustration, and maybe you've seen it in the past. But here in the state of Utah, we call our tax incremental financing differential. And really how it works is you come into an inland port project area and you have an existing tax base. That stays with the local taxing entities. And then agreement is entered by bringing in an inland port project area to split any new growth above that existing tax base at a 75-25% split. A lot of these.
Sorry, Senator Stevenson just pointed out, and I want to just make the point. Caitlin, we'll have to relook at this slide. If we were really looking at that existing tax base, that line at the bottom would probably be slim than none.
It's almost 0.
It's almost.
Yeah.
We
So
got
anyway, that's not representative. I just wanted to point that out.
The next slide it is. I'll show you that one, but on this one, I think for the purpose of words, it was built a little bit thicker. And that's what I was gonna touch on, is a lot of the communities we're coming in are greenfield. There's really no tax revenue coming in, maybe $100 on a parcel. Yes,
You could print, underneath, you could print existing tax base with an arrow pointing to we couldn't even tell what color line of it.
yeah, let me show you this one right here. The darkest color, which you can barely even see, is the existing tax map in these charts and graphs. So, yes, to your point, a majority of these communities don't have an existing tax base, or it's very, very slim. And so as we come in and we bring in this economic development, they are given the tool for us to share that tax differential and allow that build over time. So a lot of these, as I showed in the second slide, these are our project areas. It's not inclusive of all of them. But we're really looking to show in this slide that those funds that are going to be dedicated are really non-existent. And they're going to be built over time as a project area is built out, and then the taxes are collected. I'm going to jump to this slide right here on public infrastructure district versus the authority infrastructure bank. One way to leverage that tax increment, because that builds over time, you don't have that as cash in the bank now, is to work to get a debt structure initiated. So you're pledging those future tax revenues to a public infrastructure district, and then a public infrastructure district is able to work with the finance folks, go out to market to issue a bond and get the cash up front now. That allows them to take those funds, invest them in the infrastructure that is absolutely necessary to bring all of these businesses that we're trying to recruit into our project areas. And then as that tax is collected over time, it is then used to pay down that debt. The advantage of a public infrastructure district and the inland port being able to sponsor these is that they are a separate legal entity. So one of these I can outline is we worked with Spanish Fork in the VERC project area, and we have worked together to create a public infrastructure district. It's not the cities and it's not the ports, it's together a conglomerate of the two, a coordination, and it being designed as such makes it so that as they issue debt, it doesn't become the responsibility of the local taxpayers to pay it back or the inland port. It's really the incremental income that's going to come from those taxes that's being pledged to pay back that debt. So it takes the risk off of the local community and the port itself when a public infrastructure district issues the debt as opposed to the inland port. But that does have to be designed correctly so that it doesn't flow into an organization. The other mechanism is the Authority Infrastructure Bank. This is the state of Utah had set aside $65 million for the ability to loan out these funds. They have primarily been used for rail, although I know that there's some focus that we want to use these in rural communities, and then some other situations as a gap financing where they need to start putting infrastructure in now, and maybe there's not enough predictable tax revenue to take it to a bond or to the market right now. So we work closely with our Authority Infrastructure Bank Committee, our loan committee, and then we bring those projects here to the board for approval. And then they move to the next step, which is the Executive Appropriations Committee to approve the movement of those funds. And then we work really closely with state finance to get those loan agreements and terms done correctly and appropriately, and make those funds get out as quickly as we possibly can.
Can I add something there?
Mhm.
The intent, I think, of the legislature when it was put together in the beginning was to expand this infrastructure bank And as our economy permits, we will, I think, put additional money into that. That probably isn't an end all number that we have there.
Great. Yeah, and there were about $35 million that has been sent out. I think 10 million has been paid back, and then we have another one that should be going out about $5 million. So, we're working diligently to employ those, strategically throughout the state. Just talking through here, just process, you are very well aware of your role in our project area amendments. We bring resolutions to you, we get them approved, and then we are working really closely with the counties to get these recorded properly. So that as we start to see parcels being triggered, meaning that we're gonna be collecting on those property taxes, that they already have everything squared away. This is a new process because, we really had the Northwest Quadrant, and that had already kind of been settled, so we're working closely with the county auditors, recorders, assessors to try and make that process smooth. So with that, I'm gonna turn it back to Scott, who's gonna turn it over to his team.
Ariane, can you
Yes.
tell us, have there been any complications with recording with the different counties? Has been any kind of a learning curve or? Yeah.
Yeah, yes, because we're different
You talked
animals.
about kind of streamlining the process and maybe you think like, okay, there's,
Yeah, the
We'll talk
unique
about this
thing
later.
about us comparatively to the RDAs and CRAs that they're used to dealing with is that we create a project area now, but we're not triggering it right away. So we're gonna be triggering multiple parcels every year for, 25 years. So how do they account for that in their system? So they're having to create kind of that initial, here's your base tax year process. And then down the road, as we trigger. And so we've attended some of the UAC meetings and met with the auditors and recorders and I think we've got a pretty smooth process
Great.
and we're trying to help educate them on what we're doing with the inland port and helping them. But yes, it's new to them, it's new to us. There's limitations on the software they're using, and so we're trying to figure out the best ways to help them get what they need in a timely manner. And so that we can get things triggered when they need to be triggered and don't have to wait a tax year on the increment.
Done.
thank you.
County that we're in.
Yeah,
It's not, like, Beaver County's not, so.
yeah. I assumed it was a learning curve.
And we should probably have a system in which all the counties are unified, like uniform. I'll have that in ours.
And I will say, just for the board, Madam Chair, if there's one thing that keeps me up at night, it's everything related to tax differential. How we do that in the future. What it looks like when we've got, 16 counties reporting on potentially 1,000 or 2,000 different parcels, that becomes really complex. And I want to just give a huge shout out to our AVP team and also to Ariane as they're working through this. We're setting this up so that there won't be any glitches in the system and we can make it as easy as possible for these counties to work with us. That's not going to be an easy day, but it's going to be here before we know it. And so we're already working to make sure that it's a flawless approach between us and the counties and the financial flow of money.
Do you always do 75-25, or is there, like, I know in our CRAs, we've gone like 90-10 in some instances. Is it always 75-25?
I know there's been some past project areas that weren't there, but I've been assured by Scott that moving forward, we are going to maintain the 75-25.
Statutorily, it's 75-25. Anything else would be done by interlocal agreement, and it is not great.
So Victoria, to answer your question, we have to take 75.5 in by statute, but the board may opt to do somewhere we give back so it seems like we're at like maybe 70 or 65 or something.
Any other questions? Any Dr. Scott?
We're going to move to the associate vice presidents who are going to give an accounting of the project areas. 5 minutes each is not a lot of time, so this will be very high level, but please, if you have any questions about their work, what they're working on, they would love to talk about those. We'll start with Vice President Stevens.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the board.
if I could,
Scott,
I don't wanna override anyone, but if you need more time than that, we're way ahead of schedule. I would think no one's going to object.
okay,
We have 5 minutes and 10 seconds.
thank you.
Okay.
Because 5 minutes to go through all of the Northwest Quadrant is a little bit of a challenge, but yeah, we'll take it. We'll take
Very
it.
easy going. I don't know what you're You have a lot.
So, by way of introduction, I'm Stephen Smith. I'm the Associate Vice President of Regional Project Area Development for the Northwest Quadrant. As you can see, I have responsibility for Salt Lake County and Summit County. We don't have anything in Summit County yet, just in case you're wondering, but if we ever do, that would be mine. So, Madam Chair and members of the board, I'm thrilled to give you a sample platter of things happening in the Northwest Quadrant, or if you like, a flight. That's more your thing. We'll go through that. Optimization efforts in the Northwest Quadrant are broad ranging, and so you have kind of an overview of all the things that we've really kind of touched on here. As we go through this presentation, it's again very high level, but the priorities and the focus in this area are really, I think, unique. Efforts around the North Temple landfill remediation, clean ports, the air cargo partnerships that you heard about, the baseline study and preferred scenario study. Those are really cutting edge things. And I think as we go through these efforts in Northwest Quadrant, they're going to create some precedents for future project areas. But I do want to say in the last year especially, we made some really significant progress in driving and supporting economic growth in the area, as well as job creation, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We made critical investments, as you heard about from Alan, in logistics related infrastructure, which I think is really the scaffolding for the economic development in this area. We built and strengthened partnerships with our critical partners, including Salt Lake City. As a Salt Lake City resident, I really love that my community and my workforce get along. It wasn't that way so much when I started, but we've really, I think, created a great partnership with our friends over at Salt Lake City and working together on a number of projects. And then we've really defined the value proposition of this area, and we're working on ways to market that beyond our borders, just as kind of a high level overview. So here's a little overview of business development up to this point. We've gone through several inland port related incentives to help drive growth in this area, to bring that where it wouldn't have otherwise been. Through these, we've created about $575 million of potential capital investment in the area and over 1,200 jobs. And I will say potential jobs. 1,000 of those jobs have been potential jobs have been in the last year and through our efforts over the last year. So we are really excited about kind of that work there. That's both new business recruitment and also expansion. We're focusing on really both. We appreciate the companies that have already made the decision to be here. And if there's an opportunity for us to help them, overcome an obstacle to expand, we're looking to do that in every way. We have a couple of additional resolutions that we're hoping to bring to the board for additional project area related incentives over the next couple of months. This will be great. We'll say this has been a great partnership with a number of partners in Utah, GoEO. Local partners have brought opportunities to us to help us grow. We'll also be looking at some additional Northwest Quadrant marketing in the coming months and driving that value proposition. Director Hart already talked a little bit about North Temple landfill remediation. As he mentioned, we are going gangbusters on this remediation right now. It kicked off in April. We are full swing right now. We are operating at full capacity. We're moving about 4,500 cubic yards of garbage into the repositories every single day. We have a couple opportunities that we're looking at. We're starting to get some preliminary ideas about infrastructure that we need in the area, utilities. We're working to vacate an old subdivision that was planned out there 100 years ago. That's a fun effort. We've had a couple of obstacles I will call out. What's that? The subdivision?
Old subdivision.
Yeah, so there's a Maplewood addition. 100 years ago, there was a plan to have residential in that area. And so if you look at Google Maps,
I-80.
this was way before then.
Yeah.
So if you look at a Google map of of that area, you'll see that there were roads planned pretty much intersecting I-80.
But nothing. built,
Nothing was ever done.
No utility.
No utilities were ever built, but we do need to clear that out. So we are working with Salt Lake City Planning right now.
I was-
I was confused by that too.
Interestingly, that process takes a little while to go through. As you all know, we've had a very dry summer. We haven't had a lot of moisture out there, so wind conditions and dust have been something that we've been very considerate about in that landfill. So we've had to halt operations a few times to make sure that we're not kicking up a lot of dust. There has been a bit of theft out in that region. We've added some additional security measures and have had moderate success, but there's been a fair amount of equipment theft, unfortunately, as we've gone through that we've had to deal with. So, any questions on the landfill? We'll spend more time with the board on this one. I do want to touch on the baseline and preferred scenario study. So as you may be aware, this was part of our current amendment to the interlocal agreement to start these studies. We kicked off with that in April. We are working through the baseline portion of that right now. We are actually getting very close to wrapping that up. We've gone through a couple of workshops where we're going through one. We've completed one with transportation. We're working on another one next week with health impact. And so those will be critical to wrapping up the baseline. We're also doing a community study and a community survey. We've sent that out and been out and about. As you can see in the pictures here, we've been out and about all summer. Number of our staff to drive responses to that. We're currently at about 60 responses. We're aiming to get over 100. I want to give a special shout out to Caroline White-Appleby for really helping us enhance our survey process so we could drive that more. As we wrap up the baseline, we will get into the preferred scenarios portion of that. Most likely in September and October, and we'll come back to present more of that for the board. Any questions on the baseline and preferred scenario study?
Stephen, can I just mention quickly
Please.
right here, parenthetically somewhat, as we work through this, there's a couple of things that are really important as we're looking at for Salt Lake City. The public law enforcement out in this area is absolutely critical. So that's something we're continuing to work with the city on and understand their needs and what our financial role potentially could be. Excuse me, under the direction of this board. We're also looking at the right ways that we can help in the conservation conversation. And so appreciate Joel and the conversations he's having there. But we want to continue to be a good partner with Salt Lake City. We feel like they've made great efforts. We feel like we're trying to make great efforts on our side. And we hope and are really optimistic this relationship's just getting stronger and stronger. So the councilwoman and board the Victoria board member Petro, we appreciate how that relationship's just getting stronger and stronger. We hope we're working on some things that will really make a difference for the future.
We've already gone through logistics, so I won't spend a lot of time here, but we are excited about the train fill funding and seeing that expand. So appreciate that we were able to do that. Having been also caught up at crossings on 1700 South and 900 South more than a few times. I'm excited for that. And then lastly, I just want to touch on a couple of contract and finance pieces. The board may recall that we passed in the last board meeting, the Public Infrastructure District, the Northwest Quadrant Public Infrastructure District up by the quad. So that'll be kicking off. And then we're making, I'm pleased to say our properties, our leased properties, we have fully subleased out our property at 5 South 5100 West. Thank you. So I really appreciate our partners at Colliers and everyone for helping us close both of those deals. We have 2 tenants. We're working on the 1100 South property right now. We have a couple of strong potentials there that we're working through on that. And hopefully we can get that one closed out and moving forward. With that, I will answer any other questions that you may have before I hand it over to Danny. Yes.
I just want to say thank you because this project area was conceived in trauma. We don't get the story that everyone else does, that we came to the table and we agreed to and to eight. So and I was gestating while people were at that table, so I am only here for the redemption arc of this. And I think it's been quite a redemption arc. I know there's so much work left to do. If Ben stays up with the tax differential, I'm staying awake with the tax differential on the other side going, how am I going to make sure that police get out there without displacing my senior citizen neighbors who are living on social security and the property tax increase they couldn't sustain, right? And so I really am appreciative that we can come in good faith at this point and bring issues like that and find problem solving. I think the thing I'm most excited for after seeing what Lufthansa did is the air cargo advent. Not only is that necessary for the PM 2.5, but in my area, we are proud union homes. We are the home of the blue collar worker who didn't go for a 4-year degree, but still keeps this state running. And so innovating jobs that not only will protect their lungs and their children's ability to play outside because the environment's clean, but also give them that trajectory toward a dignified life in jobs that provide economic mobility and long-term stability. I really am proud of what we're doing. I acknowledge how much work, how many times we're gonna annoy you, how many times we're gonna be frustrated by what comes back, but that's the nature of building during a growth trajectory. So I just wanna say thank you, Stephen. You've been pivotal. Ben, I have never seen you not answer the phone to me. And even when I get snarky, like, you're one of the few men in Utah who appreciates my snarky, so I appreciate you more than you know.
Thank you. Appreciate those comments.
Steve,
Yes, sir.
just before we sit down.
Yeah.
This isn't the only issue, the public safety for the officers in the area right now. There's a lot to be done out there. We recognize that on the very upfront side of putting together the legislation that created the inland port, especially in that area. But, you know, eventually you're gonna have probably police substations, fire stations, places to put, backhoes and things that will take care of the streets, because that responsibility, the way this is structured, is still Salt Lake City's. It isn't something that can be subbed out or sent someplace else. And so there will be a lot of negotiation before we get to that point. And, there are some of us who would have preferred we went a little different direction on the tax differential on the front end. But we certainly are willing to live with what we have and make it work. So, but there's a lot of things that the community would be asked to do out there. And as far as the services, and that they're probably our responsibility to pay for them. So we need to be careful about how we go about this.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So far, we've been a home run. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate that.
And just to add on to that, I just think we have to say publicly, just so people know, we have a lot of project areas. The Northwest Quadrant gets a lot of attention amongst those project areas. It's not because the others are not important, they are, but this one takes a ton of time. I would say for our staff and for everyone involved, it is well more than 50% of our retention. It's not that we don't appreciate the other parts of the state, because we do, but we have to keep our eyes on this one. There are so many moving parts in the Northwest Quadrant. It's one that just takes a lot of our time and effort. So I just want to recognize Stephen's good work, but there's a lot of people that are working on these. And now we're excited to hear from the rest of the state.
Madam Chair, can I add to that just briefly? One of the advantages of having a very mature operational project area is there are lessons that are being learned for the rest of the state. It is such a benefit to have that Northwest Quadrant who has workforce and has universities and resources. It's wonderful for the rest of the state to be able to utilize those lessons we're learning to apply those in other areas.
Well done.
Thank you. Madam Chair, board members, happy to be back here at the podium again and follow Stephen leading the parade. I'll have the next 3 entries in the parade of project areas that we'll be hearing about today. I work with 3 project areas in the southwest corner of the state. I'm happy to update you on those now. The first one, the Iron Springs project area in Cedar City, was established in April of 2023 as the first project area off the Wasatch Front. Since that time, 2 active transload facilities have been developed, including the rail sink and the Savage Cedar City, Utah transload facilities. To date, and these numbers are just coming from rail sink. I haven't got the official numbers from Savage, but from rail sink, more than 630 rail cars have been processed at that facility. removing more than 2,500 long-range trucks from Utah highways, significantly reducing traffic and emissions and travel redundancy that we were seeing prior to these opening. Another key accomplishment is the recruitment of Hive Plastics that we discussed earlier in our meeting. This is a new manufacturing company that will bring 80 jobs to the area. Hive Plastics will be moving into their new facility next month with an initial capital investment of $12.5 million and working very closely with Southwest Technical College in training their new employees. We have a great partnership with the community, including the economic development team, the county commissioners and the communities, also with Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity and Economic Development Corporation of Utah and our other partners. With the completion of this Hive Plastics building and the BZI Nautilus building that I also mentioned earlier, we are triggering those two parcels as mentioned. So that's very exciting to us. Additionally, to support infrastructure investment in the project area, the BZI Innovation Park Public Infrastructure District #1 was created earlier this year. And that's kicking off as they're going out for some financing for increasing the infrastructure that goes under these beautiful paved roads that you see here next to that Nautilus building. Finally, we're looking to amend new parcels from Parowan and Cedar City into the project area later this year. Moving on to Juab County, the Central Utah Agri Park was created in September 2023. This is gaining some momentum this year as we wrap up 2025. After nearly 2 years, the R6 Regional Council, which is the 6th County Association of Governments for this region, they're finalizing the purchase of just over 900 acres for the development of the regional agri-park portion of the project area. Addressing this project area's goals to bring ag processing to the region. This property is outside of the current project area's original boundary, so we'll be looking at an amendment to make that happen before the end of this year. Additionally, phase 1 of the Nortonville Rail Facility is completed just north of Nephi near the I-15 North Interchange. This includes a 70,000 square foot building and a rail spur to support CO buildings, steel fabrication, and also transloading needs for other companies throughout the whole region. We're also seeing a significant interest from data center projects, focusing on the Current Creek Power Plant and the Clover Substation in the area, which plays a crucial role in the state's energy infrastructure. It opens up a lot of recruitment opportunities for us as we work with the communities there. Finally, in Beaver County, the Mineral Mountains project area was created in October of 2023. Since then, we had a recruiting win with the announcement of Unitech Manufacturing, the HVAC manufacturing facility in the Beaver Zone, with a new 50,000 square foot building and the creation of 50 new jobs on the heels of major layoffs from Smithfield Foods. This is a tremendous accomplishment for the community. In the past 2 years, there have been 2 amendments that have not added acreage, but have removed acres for solar development as incentivized by Beaver County's redevelopment agency. We are actively working on an incentive with Fervo Energy, which is building the world's largest next generation geothermal energy plant in the project area near Milford. We have already triggered a parcel in the Minersville zone for a smaller fertilizer manufacturing plant located there. And we are also triggering the Unitech parcel as mentioned earlier today. In summary, these 3 project areas demonstrate significant progress in fostering economic growth, creating jobs, and developing key infrastructure access across southwestern Utah. We are confident that these projects will continue to yield substantial benefits for the region and for the state. Any comments or questions from the board?
I've got a question.
Sure.
We are receiving in the state a lot of inquiry about critical minerals as they're And there's a broad range of them that apparently are available in the state of Utah in harvestable quantities. And some we've had mines operating on before, and then they've gone away because of a cheaper foreign product. My question is there, are we receiving these? Do they sit inside of our project areas? And have we got a process where we can go through and help? I know there's some money available through the mining association. I guess Ben, you and Brian have been in contact or?
Yeah, we've had those discussions as the Milford Mining Company has ramped up, really focusing on copper initially, that they were just gleaning from the tailings of that mine's previous operations and capturing a lot of those minerals. But now they're actively mining, and that's growing, and that's a huge project in Milford. They're currently not within the boundaries of the project area, but along with the city of Milford, with the county, we're looking at opportunities. If the tools that the port offers are beneficial to those, then we'll certainly look at how we can help those projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you speak to the Fervo Energy deal, or is that an upcoming conversation in a future meeting?
That will be an upcoming conversation. We don't have any specifics, but they are already under construction for their Cape Station, which will be providing 100 megawatts of power onto the grid before this time next year. And they'll be able to expand out many, many times that. And the discussions we're having with them really center around what they're doing, how the port can benefit them with our tools, and how what they're doing can help us in the recruitment of other companies there as more power becomes available. That's such a crucial part of economic development recruitment these days. We're staying very closely involved with Fervo and those projects. So we look at some really exciting things coming from
I
there.
agree with you that building the ecosystem is so exciting, and exactly again what this board has been designed to do.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you. Joe?
Comment on this one.
Yeah.
So both on the, Jerry, to your point on the minerals and then also on this energy topic. The Department of Natural Resources, we house the Office of Energy Development as well as Division of Oil, Gas and Mining. So we regulate and we promote both of those, minerals and energy. And it's really exciting. I see there is a lot of crossover from the economic development side as we look at the opportunities that are out there. Fervo, not only they're going to deliver 100 megawatts of power within the next year, they've signed contracts for over 400 megawatts to be delivered within the next few years. So it is unbelievable what's happening there. And as we all know, just today's economy, any new development needs energy, and big energy now. We have these hyperscalers, big users. And so there's a lot of opportunity. I see the port playing a critical role in helping as we establish those economic incentives and just those zones where these types of industries can thrive.
Yeah, great. Know about Terra Power today.
Yeah,
Huge.
in fact, we just signed another deal.
Yeah.
TerraPower flagship and
That's all I know. It just says flagship and Terra Power. Office.
I think Rocky was involved in this one too, maybe. Anyway. I know it's Alex. I know it. I got the. Anyway, that was a MOU that our office formulated and signed. But big things are happening. And I guess my point was, one of the things, Jerry, to your point, that I'm really focused on is trying to create not just the mining and extraction of mineral, but the processing too. Creating some sort of regional hub, and I think that this is where the port really play a significant role. Is Utah, we have 30 of the 40 critical and rare earth elements, but so does Nevada and northern Arizona and parts of New Mexico, right? But that central southern Utah area critical and key, I think, for some sort of a regional hub where we can process, refine, and then utilize those here, because we can do it better, more efficient, cleaner than anywhere else in the world.
Thank you. I'll add one more thing. Just as the Inland Port Authority helps the state with taking a look at logistics statewide, these opportunities, looking at power, at mining, these other things, as we talk about them in certain project areas and bring them back to our team, we can see how there's crossover and collaboration between all of the areas in the state that we're working. So think that's a real strength that the Port Authority brings to the state. But there are no other questions for my region. I will turn time over to Stephanie. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and board members. I'm really excited to talk to you about Northern Utah, and I cover 4 project areas in Northern Utah. Golden Spike, West Weber, Twila Valley, and 20 Wells. And so I'm excited to kind of talk through some of the updates that we had in each one, and I'm going to be moving north to south. So we'll start with the Golden Spike project area in Box Elder County. This was one of the first multi-jurisdictional project areas that was created, and it's in partnership with Brigham City, Garland, Tremont, and unincorporated Box Elder County. And we're really excited about a pending amendment this year. Willard City has passed a resolution to create an additional project area in their city, and that will add about 200 acres to the project area once that's completed. But we're really thrilled with, even in the just, 24 months that we've been a project area, the project area just turned 2 years old this week. We have created, millions and millions of dollars of capital investment to this area already. The biggest project being our Lakeshore Learning Project, which this June celebrated their ribbon cutting. They are going to they already have created 400 jobs. They have 400 employees working at their facility today. And in that 1.2 million square foot facility in Garland, Utah, huge success story for that city. And their responsiveness to that development really made that come through. We're really thrilled about the announcement of Nucor Steel. They made that announcement back in January, and they have already begun site prep on that project. It'll be about 250,000 square feet, and they will have 263 high-paying jobs at that facility. It's a new business sector for Nucor to locate there. They actually focus on infrastructure structures. So power towers is their main product that they produce there. And so we're excited to see the future of energy development being built in Northern Utah. Next, I want to talk about West Weber. This is a 9,000 acre development, and everything we do in this project area is based off of the West Weber general plan that was created by Weber County back in 2022. And that framework really has helped us understand what this area is going to be built out as. And it allows us to be very strategic, even from the very beginning of this project area, including a wetland strategy implementation, which was created when we created the project area, another 3% wetland allocation for this area. We are really excited about the infrastructure development that is planned and occurring in this region. That's really going to open up not just the industrial development of the West Weber area, but also residential development that is going to be happening adjacent to this area. In the next 30 years, the county anticipates this being a mid-sized city of about 40,000 residents. And so we are a crucial part of that plan, of that vision for the county. And we're going to be working really closely with their planners to ensure that we're capturing that vision. We are creating a public infrastructure district to really focus on that initial infrastructure build out and make sure that it's right sized for the growth that we anticipate over the next 2 decades. And that includes water, wastewater, horizontal infrastructure, as well as a bridge rail crossing. Those key infrastructure projects, as we get those built out, are really going to open up this entire area for development. Next, I want to talk about Twila County. This is the Twila Valley project area that we talked about earlier in the board meeting agenda, and it's expanding, it's growing. The development is currently under construction with horizontal infrastructure. They have also built some roads for this area and have landed a development partner who's going to be building out the first 40 acres of this area. As they mentioned, they've also are working on finishing up negotiations on a travel center at the north end of that project area, right off of the interchange. And we're really thrilled with the consciousness that they've approached this development, particularly when it comes to wetlands. So we are working with them on this amendment. It'll add about 342 acres to the existing project area boundaries. But along with that will be an increased wetland funneling policy of about 3%. So we're excited about the potential that we have to impact the surrounding wetland areas and make sure that they are protected. And finally, the 20 Wells project area in Grantsville. This area, the anchor of this area really is going to be the Savage Tooele Railroad. That we are going to have a grand opening ceremony this month on the 17th. And that 11-mile stretch of rail really is going to make Tooele County and Grantsville City a hub for rail served industrial in the state of Utah. This really is that next phase of it. And we are already seeing tremendous activity around this area in conjunction with that announcement of that new rail line. We have multiple end users coming to see this area as the location for rail development. And the Union Pacific has put this site on their focus sites program, which they put in front of all of their customers who are looking at expanding. And so we anticipate this area really is going to be a focus area for growth in the coming years, along with the Tooele Valley project area that's adjacent to this red line. We have focused with the landowners there at the Lakeview Business Park on a mega site marketing strategy. So we are currently looking at a single project that is looking to invest. It's a multi-billion-dollar investment. And we think with the programming, the financing, the development partners that we have in this area, Grantsville is a really good potential, has really great potential to land that deal. And so we are hoping that this area will attract those mega deals, those hyperscale projects that really make national news and really put Utah on the map as a place to do business, not just for small scale projects, but for larger scale projects as well. So I will stop there and see if the board has any questions about Northern Utah project areas. Excellent. I'll turn the time over to Jenna Draper.
You guys thought you were gonna get away with not hearing from me today. The good news is I didn't bring you anything new. So I'm going to cover 6 project areas in 5 minutes. Stop me if you have any questions or if anything comes up. First one is Burke Industrial Park. We recently, Ariane kind of touched on this, closed a $65 million bond to support infrastructure. The map shows all of the current developers that have planned projects. Most of them are still in the recruitment phase, but Stockman Flats is going vertical. They are up there at the top. They are actually using all cash. So they are not using any kind of financing for their project. So with the interest rates and all of the other things that are happening, they have decided to continue with their plans on going vertical. Some of the other developers have kind of slowed their plans, but everybody is projected to put between 15 and 20 million square feet over the next however many years it takes in this area. That bond is going mostly to power infrastructure, but will also support increased everything else, your water, your sewer, your roads, everything that goes into an industrial park will be covered by that bond. In the future, there may be another bond issuance for additional infrastructure, but that $65 million will open up all of these areas. Pony Express over in Fairfield and Cedar Fort. This is our most recent one. We do not yet have the branding for it, but our team is working on that. we did do an amendment, we're going to need to do an amendment. Payson City actually passed a resolution a couple of weeks ago to become part of the Pony Express project area. So I'm currently working with them to identify which parcels they would like to include and which developments will need assistance and how our tools can best be used in Payson City. Fairfield is going to be making an application to the AIB. When we first started talking to them, they knew that they needed some water infrastructure for some of their industrial development that they already have planned. There are a handful of companies already existing out there that know they need more space. Fireworks manufacturing, cabinets, things like that. They already have smaller operations either in their backyards, in their garages, somewhere in the town. So they do have a developer that's putting in an industrial park. When we started talking to Fairfield, they agreed to put in and upfront the cost of that water line so that they could get it going. And the discussions we had with them would be an AIB loan or a bond or something to pay that back to them, because they have recently been kicked out of the space they used as their town hall, and they need that funding to build a town hall. So they used to be in the dance studio. Now they're in, I believe, somebody's backyard for their town hall, and would appreciate some reimbursement for those funds on that water line. It's about 900,000 for the water line, and then they are looking at an additional about $2 or $3 million to put in for data center and other development that's planned within Fairfield City that is currently included in the project area. Cedar Fort is still working on redoing their general plan and deciding exactly what industries. They identified a few of them, but they don't know exactly what that's going to look like and what that strategic plan will be. So I'm working with them on that, and then we'll get Payson City included in the future. Castle Country out in Carbon and Emmerich counties, AirBuild has hired their first employee in Green River, so they are up and running. That's the groundbreaking in the bottom picture there. That they are projected to put about $15 to $20 million into doing water reclamation and water treatment with algae, and then taking that algae once it's been used and turning it into biochar for the local farmers. They also have the capacity to take used watermelon and other agriculture waste that is either going to just rot out in the fields or be used somewhere else. So they can turn that into biochar and give it back to the farmers as well to increase their yields. We also triggered the fossil rock mine this year. That's the top picture there. We went down and toward that mine and then assisted Emory County with it triggering that. Fossil Rock and Wolverine right now have not asked for any kind of assistance or any kind of funding. So Emory County is planning on taking that differential and using it to improve the infrastructure. With the 1,100 jobs that operation has created, it has identified a lot of need for upgraded roads and other infrastructure for the communities. So they're planning on taking that differential and supporting that workforce in that way. Project Everest is trying to decide between a site in Carbon County and a site in Green River City. That project is 160 jobs and about $360 million investment. So that would be huge for either one of those communities. They have narrowed it down. It will land in either one of those places. They're just trying to decide between the two sites which would be better. And the Savage Rail Terminal in Price is going to start construction probably in the next little bit. They have done some internal adjustments with their organization chart, and so they are kind of working towards, but they will be building that terminal there in Price, so we will be able to capitalize on that additional rail infrastructure for their industrial developments in Carbon County. Historic Capital is off to a slower start than some of the others. They got funding this year through GOEO RCOG grant, Rural Community Opportunity Grant, of $600,000 to put in a transmission line that will take 2 megawatts of power into about 20 acres of development by their airport and down by the existing cheese plant and mushroom plant. So that will open up a lot of areas that will now be shovel ready, and with the ability to go vertical. We do have quite a few companies that are talking to that developer. Nothing has been signed or closed yet, but once that transmission line is complete within the next couple of months, we're anticipating at least one of those companies will sign on the bottom line. We have another plant, and it's aerated concrete, that has purchased property out in this area as well. It's not served by that transmission line. It actually has existing power to the site. So they're finalizing that land purchase, and their plans are to go vertical sometime within the next year. Their airport is also undergoing an expansion. There's a group that wants to build some extra hangars and turn it into more of a destination or an airport. So they would like to bring in additional companies and additional people to support that expansion. Skyline Corridor covers 6 different areas right in the middle of the state. This Line Housing Development is currently doing its final rounds of lender financing to go vertical. That would bring 200 units to this line area. And they are not low income, but they are kind of that middle of the line. They would be apartments or townhomes that are going to house workers just coming out of college or just getting started or just moving to the area. There's a significant need in the center of the state for something between living in your parents' basement and something between buying a $500,000 starter. So this will kind of fill that niche and help with the workforce in everything from Wayne County up through Sevier and Sanpete County. So that would actually benefit this entire area. Ephraim Crossing has created their PID. We haven't done any bond issuance yet. We need to do an amendment through this board before they can do that final bond offering. So we anticipate that happening in November and December of this year. But they will be putting in roads and arterial roads throughout their entire project to bring the infrastructure to the different parcels they need. That Ephraim Crossing development is mixed use. It will be housing, it will be business, it will be offices, it will be commercial, and it will also be industrial development. Gunnison has been working with Sitla. We've identified some Sitla land that's right next to the Gunnison Industrial Park to bring in as part of their project area and then support the development for Sitla to get in the infrastructure through their project area and start recruiting some companies into there. We have a couple of local companies that are expanding into that area and going to be building new buildings in Gunnison in the existing industrial park. And then Sitla wants to continue that infrastructure through their land as well. Richfield and Gunnison have both triggered parcels this year. We talked about that just a few months ago, but Gunnison is an existing carbon fiber manufacturer that does prosthetics. And Richfield had some housing and some other development that was kind of refurbished just to get them a little bit of differential moving. Richfield also has industrial injection that's going to be expanding into their area. They purchased the building that's in that picture and will bring about 100 jobs to the area with plans for expanding into 200 within the next couple of years. They're bringing on new product lines and getting into a new market, and they just needed some additional space from where their operations currently are. And Wayne County is also considering an amendment for this year. They've identified some other areas. Their industrial park that's in the project area right now is going to be about a $10 million investment to hook onto Lyman's water line and be able to have the fire suppression and the different requirements they need for that industrial park. So they've actually identified a different area where they would like to kind of get started and do a shell building and do some rental space for businesses that are expanding, that are currently located in Wayne County, just to kind of get those businesses somewhere to live before they do the investment into the larger industrial park. Ancient Sky has been an interesting one. This is the first time I have really worked with the reservation, and that's been kind of interesting to learn about the different chapter houses and talk to the people and kind of learn what they need down there. Bluff and Monticello have both passed resolutions to become part of the Ancient Sky project area. Bluff is considering theirs. We are working on identifying parcels within Blanding and Monticello cities to amend into their project area. The largest need down there that we keep hearing over and over is housing, and they actually would like to set aside a portion of their differential for reservation housing specifically and other housing projects for workforce development. There are quite a few companies down there going back to the natural resources and the energy and mining. Energy Fuels is building a natural gas line so that they can begin expand their operations that are there just outside Blanding City. But that line would service a lot of areas within Blanding and the surrounding communities to actually bring natural gas to their homes, which is not available right now. The Lisbon mine is expanding. They do peat and other types of mining. They have a planned expansion. I don't have a lot of details on that one yet because I think they're still trying to figure it out, but it is part of their project area. Airbuild is also looking at expanding, once they get done with their Green River operations, they're actually looking at expanding into Ridgefield, Fillmore, and in 3 different areas in Ancient Sky. So they'll be a good partner for several years to come. But Ancient Sky is very excited about the opportunity to get clean water. They have a lot of water resources right now that even the cows won't drink out of because it's not clean enough for them. So they're very excited about Airbuild coming in and using that algae and the other processes that they have in place to clean that water without a lot of effort and investment on the community's part to get that precious resource back to them. And then I mentioned the chapter houses, but they're very interested in the development, and they can see how something like a partnership with the Utah Inland Port Authority can support their reservation individuals and the families that are growing up down there that have, pretty dead-end jobs and build local gas stations or the bowling alleys or wherever it is. They can see how the bringing in good jobs can help support the community and give their children a life that they didn't recognize. It's been pretty interesting to learn how that works. The reservation individuals that have kind of been mixed in their bloodlines, the parents and the grandparents, their entire incomes and their entire lives have been based on the government funding that they've gotten. Their children don't have access to that. So their children are trying to figure out how to exist in a world with no direction and no amount of people they can rely on that have been living in the outside world, because all they and their families have ever known is existing on that government funding. So we're helping them to see how they can improve their lives and look beyond that.
The interesting thing about that is if you go down there, those that leave can go, those that are full-blooded Native American will leave, and they will have a career elsewhere, and they will go back.
Yeah.
And yet there's an acute lack of services down there. So I think the right answer is exactly what we're doing. Let's take the jobs to them, rather than take them someplace else in employment, then they go back for the remainder of their life. I've been down there several times with Utah Housing, and it's really an amazing cultural experience to go down and spend time down there.
Yeah.
But I really believe that we need to look at the turnaround, because what we've been doing the last, 100 years hasn't really worked very well.
Yeah, and now they don't see a path forward without that additional support.
I'll just note that after taking a tour of Energy Fuels and Blanding, they're very proud of the fact that the vast majority of their workforce is local, that they grew up there. They have been able to stay there with the jobs that Energy Fuels has provided. It's really cool. And if we can add
This
additional
expansion,
infrastructure,
yeah, very excited to.
it would only
to
grow.
continue that. Great. Any questions for me? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you a little quiz. No, I'm kidding. But the slides that we put together today are all about, trying to let you guys learn all the different project areas, because there's 14 of them. We all know them pretty well. We deal with them every day, but they all are branded. They all have different needs and wants and desires, and we love working with each of them. All of the AVPs have such passion and connections with each of their project areas, and we really value them for that, and they've been doing a great job. The recruitment update that I'd like to give you today is very short and sweet. I'll give it to you quick. Obviously, I've told you that Scott is the Vice President of Business Development. I work with him, as well as Lindsay Peterson, who's in the audience there in front of you. Wave, Lindsay. Lindsay helps us with all of our recruitment efforts and filling out the RFIs and getting all of the efforts to the rest of our state that we have going. Quickly, I'd just like to tell you that the RFI and the recipe for success, in a nutshell, this is how it works. We receive an RFI from one of our partners or stakeholders. We log it and we share it with our associate vice presidents or AVPs. They reach out to the project areas and their contacts in those areas, and they solicit the interest. Keep in mind, like we've talked about, that these people have economic development or city managers who have multiple hats. They're doing a lot of different things. They don't have the time to stop or the staff to help fill out the RFI and get it back in a very short deadline. So we can step in with our AVPs and say, yes, they say, yes, we want to do this. And we fill out the project area template. which you can see there's some samples there of the pages. We have them already branded. Lindsay can help them fill those out with some of the needed information as far as demographics and educational needs, workforce needs. And we put it together, make it look professional, and send the submission in to the solicitor at the RFI, meeting the deadline. And then we log it into our CRM and we track the submissions and the feedback or interest. In doing so, we fill a needed niche around the state, especially for small staffs to do those legwork. So like I said, lots of people in our staff that can help get these turned around for a small staff in a rural area. We provide value to the project areas and we can meet the tight submission deadlines. I think the other thing that we have found recently is that we have helped put the communities on the recruitment map. So as we start to submit more and more of these smaller areas, the site selectors are starting to see them come up more and more. And it sort of raises their interest to realizing that, hey, these areas are really valuable and they do have lots of opportunities for us. And we should look at something off the Wasatch Front. And it gives them the opportunity to sort of, put in for these new projects that otherwise may not have been considered in a smaller area. So we act as an active partner and we help them win in some of these RFI submissions. You got your slides last week, but this morning I checked our dashboard and I noticed that things have changed in the last couple of days. So your slides say that it was 398 last week. It went to 400 over the last couple of days. And last May, at the end of May, when I presented to you guys up at the Capitol, that number was 322. So we are definitely making an impact and growing, and all of our project areas are getting looks and submissions from the RFIs. We have it's kind of probably Brian Starks is not in the room, but he was before. But now as the executive director of EDC Utah, these are the people who we work with, and you can see that EDC Utah is probably our largest source of who we get our RFIs from at 54 and almost 0.5%. The Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity supplies us with RFIs as well at 26.5%. And or did I get that wrong? Sorry, making sure I get that right. Well, I'm sorry, they're at the 12% coming from Gario. And 26.5% come from word of mouth, our stakeholders, our partners, whoever else are reaching out to us. And those are the ones that we generally work with as a whole. But we are getting them, as you can see, from a number of other areas across the state, from our brokers and business partners and everybody word of mouth that comes back to us from those arenas. Right now, you can also see that number went up over the weekend, as did the pipeline. The phase 1 of the pipeline, we have 7 new or recently introduced RFIs. 10 of those have moved to stage 2, which is where one or more of our project areas has been pitched as a possible location to be considered. And 54 of them have moved into phase 3, where discussions, site visits, and or negotiations are happening. That is a very brief and high level report on our recruitment process. Jerry, Victoria, Abby, I really appreciate what you guys have said today as far as the needs and the impact that this is having. The nexus of having these businesses get looks and recruitment and wins is huge, because it'll dovetail and snowball into more and more opportunities for these areas, and we're really proud to have that happening. So we're proud of our efforts. Thanks for your time today. Scott is here. If you have any questions on recruitment, we'd be happy to answer those for you.
Hi, this is Barbara with Capital.
Slide. If I could just add, Madam Chair, we just went through an exercise of doing performance reviews for our teams. And it was humbling to look at the breadth and the depth of the interaction that this business development team has with our Utah communities. In the public sector, the administrative staffs, the business interests, the nonprofits, stakeholders the public who just have an interest. It's wonderful work to be involved in, but it's significant, the lift that this team is engaging in. And with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'm gonna ask the one I just asked Ben.
Yes, sir.
Could we take some of your staff, pull them off, and put them in other agencies in state government and use them as trainers? Then when they got trained, they would pull them back out and give them back to.
They're wonderful and they would be great at that. I will say, Senator, that the secret sauce to this effort certainly has been hard in this board. But the statutory tool set changes the interactions with these communities from other entities. It's magic how it works. And while they're all wonderful, this is a big part of that.
You got sweet deal.
Careful.
Well done.
Andy.
Thank you, sir.
A lot, thanks.
All right. Mona, sustainability, Caroline, Michelle.
Oh, no, everybody.
I'm I get-
Oh, yeah, our team has.
some introductions.
And then
You're able
I-
to share your presentation.
Yes, we were able to.
And Madam Chair, just while they're getting set up, I'd just say the board and for the public, our environmental and sustainability responsibilities are always a focus for us. I know that there are those who would like to aggrandize themselves on the port's development. The reality is we are very responsible developers, and I think we've actually very responsive to those who have been critical as well. As a result, I think we're probably stronger environmentally than we've ever been. And I say this a lot, but Mona is one of the best environmental engineers on the state. Being able to add Michelle and Caroline to that mix gives us an incredible team. And I also want to just note Amy Brown Coffin, who oversees this, does an amazing job on our team. She oversees compliance. We're not going to hear from her today because we do the quarterly compliance update. You've already heard from and personnel, but I do want to recognize her. She's on our senior management and part of our upper management team, and she just does an amazing job with all of her responsibilities.
Wonderful. Well, I have a lot to cover today. I will be doing so at a relatively high level. We will have time at the end for questions, but please bear with me as we run quickly through these slides. My name is Mona Smith. I'm the Environmental and Sustainability Director here at the Utah Inland Port Authority. I've been with the port now for a little over 3.5 years, and I am very excited to share with you all today some of our goals, key performance indicators, and milestones that we've achieved since I've joined the port. I have outlined a list of environmental and sustainability goals for the port as follows. That is to understand each of our project areas' unique environments, to mitigate wetlands as we can above and beyond what is required by regulation, to reduce emissions along the Wasatch Front where we have compromised air quality, to implement sustainable development projects, to enhance environmental and sustainability related policies and procedures, and to engage with the communities that we are working around and serving. I'll briefly share some of the key performance indicators or KPIs I've identified for each of these goals. When it comes to understanding each of our project areas' unique environments, those KPIs include completed environmental reviews, which is a process I've created using publicly available environmental data. And then for project areas with particularly sensitive environments, that presents an opportunity for us to develop more coordinated strategies to protect those environmentally sensitive resources. For wetland mitigation, I have been working on an internal wetland mitigation funding procedure that will outline a standardized process for how we evaluate, award, and then track progress for wetland mitigation funds. An additional KPI for wetland mitigation includes the acres of wetlands we are able to mitigate above and beyond what is required by wetland regulations. For emissions reduction, we're looking into opportunities to calculate emissions reductions within our project areas throughout different modes of transportation. Another KPI includes the number of zero emission and near zero emission technology projects that we're able to deploy or support. For sustainable development project implementation, the big KPIs at this time are to complete our Clean Ports Program funded project. That's slated to be completed in January of 2028. We are also working on implementing sustainable strategies from our Northwest Quadrant Sustainability Action Study that we completed a couple of years ago. In terms of policy and procedure enhancement related efforts, I have been working on building out our wetlands policy to be comprehensive of all natural resources. So keep an eye out for an upcoming draft that is comprehensive of all natural resources. And then additionally, working to maintain internal policies and procedures to make sure that we're in federal compliance with procurement standards and civil rights laws for our federal assistance. Caroline's going to talk more about our community engagement efforts, but in terms of KPIs, we really want to create a standardized process where we can interact with our communities, understand and identify their needs, as well as how we can shape how we're impacting communities as a port. I'll briefly run through some of the milestones we've completed in each of these goals. We now have 14 project areas throughout the state. All of those project areas have a completed environmental review as part of the project area plan and budget. 9 of those project areas have had amended project area plans, which have updated environmental reviews as part of the amendment. For wetland mitigation, as I mentioned earlier, I am currently in the process of drafting a wetlands mitigation funding procedure. The next steps with that is to share this draft procedure with Department of Natural Resources, with the Great Salt Lake Commissioner and other stakeholders for feedback on enhancement. Stephanie and I have had a lot of ongoing conversations to plan around wetland mitigation efforts in our northern Utah project areas, most, if not all of which have a touch point with the Great Salt Lake and trigger our wetlands policy. Another thing to note, we did have a land grant with the Department of Natural Resources recently for Great Salt Lake shoreline preservation efforts. For emissions reduction, I'll let Michelle talk more about this with her slides, but we are on track in implementing our Clean Ports Program funded project, which will include a baseline emissions inventory and emissions reduction strategy analysis for the Salt Lake City Intermodal Terminal, which is the Union Pacific owned rail yard on the west side of Salt Lake City. We also continue to actively explore opportunities to track emissions reductions throughout our project areas and throughout different modes of transportation. For sustainable development project implementation, we are in the thick of implementing our Clean Ports Program funded project. We are also in the thick of implementing our RAISE grant funded project in Iron Springs. And we continue to actively explore additional funding opportunities that would support sustainable development projects. In the policy and procedure related space, we this year developed internal civil rights, federal compliance, and federal procurement procedures to ensure that we are in compliance with federal requirements for procurement and for civil rights as it pertains to our federally awarded activities. And then I'll let Caroline cover more around what we're doing in the community engagement space. I just want to highlight briefly our partnership with Salt Lake City, the efforts that we've been doing as part of the baseline and preferred scenarios study, and how that ties really nicely into the community engagement work we're doing with Clean Ports.
I'll now hand it over to Michelle Bonin and Caroline White Knockleby, soon to be Knockleby, to talk more about our UPA Clean Ports program funded project. But just as a high level recap, last year we applied in partnership with the Division of Air Quality for 2 funding competitions through the Clean Ports Program Award. The port was awarded $2.4 million for climate and air quality planning activities. And the Division of Air Quality was awarded $110 million for the deployment of zero emission technology. All of these efforts are surrounding that Salt Lake City intermodal terminal owned by Union Pacific. So I'll turn the time over now to Michelle Bonin. She's our emissions inventory analyst for our Clean Ports program. She'll talk more about the work she's doing. So
thank you, Mona. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Bonin, and I'm the emissions inventory analyst for the Utah Inland Port Authority. My role within the organization is going to be overseeing and implementing the baseline emissions inventory, as well as contributing to discussions of emission reduction strategies. I'm going to give a little bit of background about myself, just because I know some of you have not heard from me before. I came here from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, where I received my Bachelor of Science in Environmental Sciences Policy and Management with a minor in climatology. I went on to receive my Master of Science in Land and Atmospheric Science. And during my time at the university, I was, among other things, a research assistant where I worked with agricultural greenhouse gas emissions. So today I wanted to discuss the emissions inventory and emission reduction strategy analysis. I wanted to talk about some of the milestones that we've hit, as well as some of the next steps that we have planned. So I wanted to start with the Quality Assurance Project Plan. This is a document that's required for the federal funding that we receive from the Environmental Protection Agency. It's a document to outline the quality assurance and control procedures and has sections pertaining to project organization, environmental information operations, data management, assessments, and tasks. It was submitted to the EPA and has been approved by them. This is a picture of us with some BYU students where I learned about some of their emissions collection processes, as well as some of their methods and techniques for analyzing the data and things that I can potentially use in the future. Next is the request for proposal. We are planning on hiring a contractor to take the baseline emissions inventory. So we needed a document to outline the project needs. And this has sections pertaining to objectives, scope of work, services and deliverables, project description, and technical criteria. It was sent to state procurement and will be uploaded hopefully later this week into the State of Utah online solicitation portal, otherwise known as Bonfire. I'll let Caroline touch on this more, but we did attend a Partners in the Park community event to discuss the Clean Ports program, among other things going on with the Utah Inland Port Authority. So this is just a picture of that. And then some of the next steps that we have planned include the semi-annual progress report due August 29, 2025. So we feel as though we can successfully submit that within the next few days. We're going to hire a contractor to create the baseline emissions inventory, and we hope to have them hired within the next couple of months. Right now, I'm working on developing the emissions data management and analysis strategy specifics, as well as creating the emission reduction strategy analysis plan specifics. Once we have the contractor hired and we have that data collected and in place, I can start analyzing it and turning it into things such as statistical summaries and graphs to be able to share. So this is just another picture of us with some of the BYU students learning some of their methods and techniques that I can potentially use in the future. And at this time, I'm going to hand it over to our community engagement manager, Caroline. Thank you so much.
hi, everyone. My name is Caroline White Knockleby. As Michelle mentioned, I'm the community engagement manager for the Clean Ports project. So just a bit of background on me. I have a PhD in anthropology from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and I've also worked on a number of energy policy and community engagement projects with a range of organizations, including the U.S. Department of Energy, the Boston Museum of Science, and the Electrification Coalition. So for community engagement,
really our goal of all of this is to build two-way communication and partnerships. So informing community members of what we're up to on an ongoing basis, seeking guidance and feedback in a number of different ways, and building partnerships and collaborations together. So first and foremost, among our priorities is convening a Nearport Community Steering Committee. This is, we will be opening the applications for this in September. This is going to be a group of around 20 West Side residents who come together on a quarterly basis to receive updates on the Clean Ports project and offer guidance and input on program activities, and also participate in broader conversations around air quality and energy. So to get the word out about this committee and other opportunities, including cross-promoting the baseline survey, we have been participating in a number of local events. So you can see here, this is us at Partners in the Park event on the west side this summer. We have more events we're planning to go to this fall. We've also been helping distribute flyers for the baseline survey, as Stephen talked about, and we've created flyers that we'll be distributing to local businesses and other places about the steering committee opportunity. We've also been able to meet with a number of different local stakeholder groups and NGOs, everyone ranging from the West Side Coalition and some of the neighborhood groups to the Utah Clean Energy, Utah Heal, and Utah Clean Cities. So, and we have a number of future partnerships planned, and the goal of those is really to build trust, learn what groups are doing, explain what we're doing, and look for additional opportunities for collaboration. So we also have digital and direct communication. So we have ongoing updates to our Clean Ports landing page. We have a Clean Ports newsletter we'll be releasing. We have an online feedback form. We do some social media posts, and as I mentioned, flyers and printed materials, all of which are translated into both Spanish and English. And then the next steps for us are really having that first steering committee meeting in winter of 2026. Using the baseline survey findings to help further guide and orient our efforts. We are planning to have a number of open houses throughout the grant period, with the first one being in the spring of 2026. These will be opportunities for a broader set of community members to stay updated on what we are accomplishing and have an opportunity to provide feedback. We are in conversation with the Utah STEM action group to around the possibility of creating a student-oriented emissions inventory educational activity, and we're interested in continuing to build collaborations. And then finally, in addition to the community engagement, we're doing a sort of parallel process of workforce engagement. So the big thing we're doing here is right now we are writing an RFP that we will be releasing to get a contractor to conduct a zero emission workforce impact analysis. And the goal of this is really to identify obstacles and potential impacts to the workforce at the Salt Lake City Intermodal Terminal in order to help mitigate those impacts for a future zero emission transition to zero emission equipment and vehicles. And then in addition, we're contributing to other workforce related conversations, including with a committee run by Utah Clean Cities. So that concludes our presentation, and we're happy to take any questions you have now.
Can I say, Madam Chair, Jerry leaned over to me during the presentation, that we have a lot of smart people on our team. That's the only thing that makes me smart, is I think we know how to hire some really smart people. So to all our team and to Caroline and Michelle, welcome. But what a great team working on this.
Not sure what that says for me. I work for the RKU.
I just want to apologize for not calling you Dr. Caroline everywhere that we've gone. I will fix that immediately.
That's required, yes, thank you.
I'm super enthusiastic about this West Side board. These two women have made a huge difference already in the way that we're dealing and the way my neighborhood feels seen and represented. And I've seen you everywhere, and I'm campaigning this summer, so I've been everywhere, which means you've been everywhere. So thank you for the hard work that you've done, and especially for elevating my neighbors who really deserve this kind of opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks for saying that, Victoria. I have been beyond impressed with what both Caroline and Michelle have accomplished in just a couple short months. I used to have anxiety about pulling off a $2.4 million project successfully, but I don't anymore. I have full confidence that we will deliver something that we feel very proud about, and something that will bring positive benefits of regional significance to the west side of Salt Lake. So thank you so much. And just to clarify, all of our Clean Ports funded activities are being funded by the EPA in full. So we are very thankful to have their partnership and to have their assistance on this project. So thank you very much.
Could I just, I am quite impressed, you know, that generally the best defense is a good offense. And it seems like that's the direction we're going in here. This organization has, there's been times in its history that it's played defense. And, from back in the early days, not real good, so. But I think you've done this looks like we're doing a great job in order to explain exactly what we're doing and why and how it's beneficial. I appreciate that. That's impressive.
Thank you. We're working on it, certainly. Thank you.
Good job, Mona, Caroline, and Michelle. We will now turn to our last presenter. Senator Stevenson, at our last meeting, asked if we could make our OPMA training as entertaining as possible. And so I gave that challenge to Brooke. And I also said, could we do it as short as possible?
That's what you said. I will be brief, I promise.
You're fine, you're good.
So do we get dancing bears or?
Well, okay, so Ben vetoed the Jeopardy game.
Which I played at the youth fair and it's actually really fun.
Yeah, I know, I was there, right?
Salt Lake City, then they're OPMA, I represented.
I told Ben that boards love it, but he nixed it, and so.
Next slide.
Okay, so this is your annual ALPA, your Open and Public Meetings Act training. Next slide, please. What is ALPA? ALPA is a statute that requires meetings of state and local government bodies to be open to the public when discussing or voting on matters under the entity's jurisdiction. Next slide, please. A public body is subject to ALPA when a quorum is present and the body is convened to receive comment about, deliberate about, or take action on any relevant matter. ALPA defines public body as any administrative, advisory, executive, or legislative body created by the Utah Constitution, statute, ordinance, or resolution. ALPA defines relevant matter as a matter over which the public body has jurisdiction or advisory power. Next slide, please. Quorum. A quorum is a simple majority. For the sake of the port, it's 3. Next slide, please. All public bodies are required to post notice of their meetings. The port is required to post what they call a Class A notice. To comply with this notice requirement, notice of the meeting must be posted on the Utah Public Notice website at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting and on the body's official website if the body has an official website and the body has an annual budget of $250,000 or more. There are additional requirements for the port when the board adopts a project area plan. Those requirements are set forth in sections 1158, 502, and 503. It deals with notifying property owners within the project area. Next slide, please. Okay, oh, you did already. Okay, I'm sorry. Along with the notice, an agenda must be posted. The agenda must list the topics of the meeting with reasonable specificity, which simply means that an average person would put on notice regarding the topics to be discussed and any action the board intends to take. Next slide, please. You must keep both minutes and recordings of all open meetings. These are both public records. Next slide, please. The written minutes must include date, time, and place of the meeting, names of all members present and absent, the substance of all matters proposed, discussed, or decided, a record by individual member of each vote taken, and the name of each person who makes a comment and the substance of that comment. Next slide, please. There are timeframes for posting the minutes on the and recordings on the public notice website. Draft minutes must be posted within 30 days following the meeting. Approved minutes must be posted within 3 business days after board approval. And recordings must be posted within 3 business days after the meeting. Next slide, please. Electronic meetings are permitted. An anchor location is not required if all members attend the meeting electronically, unless someone makes a written request at least 12 hours before the meeting. Next slide, please. Closed meeting. A board can only close a meeting if the subject of the meeting is specified in section 52-4-205. To close a meeting, a quorum must be present, a motion to close the meeting must be made, a roll call vote must be taken, and 2/3 of the body must approve the closed meeting. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide contains some of the reasons which a board is permitted to close a meeting. Probably the most relevant to the port are 3 and 4, maybe 2. The sale and purchase of real estate, if public disclosure would disclose the appraisal or interfere with the transaction. Next slide, please. Before a board goes into a closed session, the chair must specify the statutory reason for closing the meeting. He must state the location of the closed meeting, and a vote must be taken by name of each member of the board for or against closing the meeting. Next slide, please. Unless a closed meeting was to discuss the character and competence or physical and mental health of an individual, you must record the closed meeting. If the meeting is for purposes of discussing character and competence or physical and mental health, then the chair must execute a sworn written statement stating that the sole purpose was to discuss those matters. Next slide, please. It is permissible to remove a person from a meeting if the person willfully disrupts the meeting to the extent that orderly conduct is compromised. Next slide, please. This slide lists some of the more common violations of UIPA: not properly closing a meeting, failure to give timely notice, failure to post the minutes and recordings. And next slide, this ends the presentation.
Well done.
You're clapping because of the brevity, right?
I want you to know I was in suspense until the last sentence.
Until the last sentence. Kept you on the edge of your seat, huh?
Madam Chair, I'll just in conclusion, as we get through the slide portion and the total portion of the meeting. I'll just say that again, we so appreciate the board. It's been a great journey these last 3 years for me personally. I feel like it's hard to say, but in so many ways, this has kind of been the highlight of my career these last 3 years, is building something that I think is really going to impact the state of Utah. And I'll say this a lot, but it's because we have a tremendous board. We have a tremendous statute that we're able to work with, but a board that is always executing on that, and a great team that is always working hard. Not a day goes by that I don't hear from someone that's working until 10 or 1 a.m. or whatever it is on a project, because we may be behind the deadline or what have you, and they're always going to get the project done. That's just the way our team is. That's the way they operate. So to a tremendous team, and there were a couple I didn't give a shout out to and we didn't hear from, but to Caitlin Felstead, to Nick Archambault, and also to Amy Chantil-Asai. Just an amazing team, people who were always working in terms of trying to make good things happen here at the port. We appreciate our partners, our good partners with our legal representatives, but we've reviewed the totality of the port today. And I can conclusively say at the end of this, Madam Chair, that we are fulfilling the statute given to us by the state legislature and by the governor, and that we are impacting in a positive way, we hope, the lives of all Utahns across the state of Utah. And I think we saw that throughout every presentation. So to our board, I appreciate the opportunity I have to serve as the executive director of this organization. I don't take that granted ever. Every day I wake up thinking, how do I make this organization better? How do I perform on our statute? How do I make sure I earn my keep and that I'm a good steward of this organization? Our goal is to always set the gold standard for the development authorities across the state of Utah, so that everyone, to Jerry's point, can look to us to see how things can and should be done. in these types of organizations. So Madam Chair, that wraps up our portion of the meeting.
Thanks to the entire staff for presenting and spending time running through everything to us. Everybody's getting bits and pieces, and we talk a lot about the thing that's right in front of us or the thing we're working on, but in totality, take a lot of time to just sit back and reflect, and it's nice to our new board members to see it. Us old guys, very remember, right?
The Godfather.
Madam Chair, can I say thank you to Carol and Diana and Larry as well for helping to make today possible as well. Thank you.
Anybody still anything from you down there?
Happy to be here. And good job, guys. This is a great presentation. The work you're doing is absolutely incredible. And you can see it expand. I can remember when back in the good old days when I first joined legislation, this was a fighting topic, right? There was a lot of kind of conflict and difficult times associated with the board. And it's under the leadership of our executive director Hart, with the team, with you and the work you all have done, it's incredible. So good job.
Anything from you guys?
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks.
the
Great
team,
person.
Ben, board members.
I got
Great
one
to work
final
with you.
thing. I had to remind myself of this. So Stephen Covey wrote The Speed of Trust. Ava, I've never read that. You should read it. But I just put it in ChatGPT just to remind myself what I was gonna say here, but it's about building trust over time and how your results, doing what you say you're gonna do, actually builds the trust. And I mean, high trust, speed goes up, cost goes up. And you guys are building that every day all across the state. Don't forget that. Don't forget that our legacy, your legacy, this institution's legacy is all about trust. I know you're doing it right now, but just even those developers we work with, everybody, those communities we work with, it's all a foundation. So we need to do good things and be reminded of that. But read the book if you haven't read it, or go listen to it on your commute home. It's really good. Okay. Do we have to adjourn this? Do I, there,
Yes,
is there
yes,
something I need
just,
to say?
just
Motion
adjourn
to
it.
adjourn? You wanna adjourn us? You opened us, do you wanna adjourn?
To adjourn.
That is a non-debatable motion. You're adjourned.